Hello, welcome back. This is video number 4 of the observational drawing series. Today we're going to deal with visual measuring, and there is no ruler required because we are just using a pencil and our eyes. Okay, so that's what the content that we're covering today is visual measuring. Now, we're visual measuring so that we can draw the contours of our still life and change these really sad looking skeletons into more realistic looking still lifes. The purpose of this here is to give you the idea of where it's placed on the page and kind of the size relationships of where things go, so that you have something to start with that you can build on and perfect. If you're trying to do it perfect the first time, you're not going to be successful, and you're really probably going to be frustrated. We don't want you to be frustrated. So we start with the skeleton. That's what we did last time. All right. So today, first of all, on our skeleton, what we're going to work on is getting the contours in, and the contours are not outlines. Outlines are different. If you have your hand here and you want an outline, you would just trace around all your fingers and close it in, and then you would have an outline of your hand. If you're doing a contour, then you would go back and you would put in lines where the bends are in here, because a contour shows three-dimensionality, that this thing is a bending form and not flat. So outlines deal with flat stuff and don't have detail, and contours have the details of the outlines. Okay, and so those contours, as I said, they're detailed and they show the forms. All right, so moving on, that's what we're going to be drawing in and making it look like the actual teapot and teacup and bottle that we have in our example. So knowing that, that's where that's going. But you need to understand that we're going to be doing proportion techniques first to get those contours in the right place. So let's review what proportions are. Okay, proportions. Notice the word portion in there. Portion deals with size. So remember that proportions are size relationships. Okay, if you have something like this, and you see that my hand is really big because it's close to you, and then this other hand over here is really small because it's far away. Okay, this is proportion. If I was drawing this, I would want to draw it so that it appears that my hand is smaller back here and further away and closer up here. All right, even though my hands never change size. All right, so dealing with proportions, also too, you can think about drawing a human. If I drew a person and I put a itty bitty little head on a big old body, or a big head on a little body, that would be out of proportion. You would want to make the head the right size for the body, or make sure the arms are not too long. So proportion is putting things in the right size perspective. All right, so these proportion techniques are going to show us or help us figure out how to get things the correct size. The first one that we're going to talk about, we're actually going to talk about 4. Here they are. Okay. The first one is comparison. The second one will deal with measuring angles. The third one, horizontal and vertical comparisons. And the fourth one, using negative shapes. So for comparison, the first one, you're going to need a pencil. Also going to need an eraser because your drawing is fixing to change. Again, we're going to draw lightly until we get it right. If you mess up, hear me now, if you mess up, Do not erase it. No eraser until it's fixed in the right place. After you draw the line in the right place, then go back and erase the mistake. Because otherwise you'll keep drawing the same line or very close to it each time. Trust me, I've learned this. All right, so let's go back to our still life. Dun, dun, dun. All right, still life and my crazy drawing. All right, here we go. Okay, the first method is comparison. You take an object that is in here and you use it to compare to everything else. All right, for example, if I want to use the bottle here as my comparison tool, I want to see with the bottle how wide it is at its widest point. Now you notice that I'm putting my pencil down here at the wide place, and this edge touches one edge, and then I'm going to put my finger where the other is. That's how you measure it. And so I have this little measurement. This is how wide this is. Now, how many Lipton bottles wide is the teacup? All right, from the top of the teacup here, we got one, and I skip it over. Oh, about 1.5. So when I go to compare here with whatever size I made this, okay, so I'm looking at this as the size I made it here. This should be 1.5, kind of close on the width of that. So I was kind of close on that. I think that this probably needs to come out some more. Notice how I'm drawing this in to fix this. I know that looks really bad. And I'm going to erase that right there just to kind of get that in there first. Fixing my proportions first before I go making the actual teacup. All right, so again, here's the measurement of the bottle. And I want to compare it to, here I need to switch hands. All right, I want to compare it to the teapot and see how wide the teapot is, okay? So at the widest point down here from the base of the piece of the spout, I can see it's 1 and it's a little over. So maybe a 1.125. So, all right, so let's see what I did here. Okay, my width is about there. And I did from the base here, 1. I got it a little too fat. I need to correct it. I think that's more I think part of it is that's down. Okay. So this is kind of helping me correct the width. All right. So you see that's comparing. Now you can also use too, like I probably wouldn't use the bottle here to compare the height of these, but you could use the height of the teapot and compare it to the height of the teacup and the height of the water bottle, so that you could start moving that along and getting that more correctly done. All right, then let's move on to the second technique, because it's really hard for me not to do just one of these. The second technique, okay, the first one is using comparison, using one object to measure. The second one is using angles, okay? So using angles to compare. All right, so if I'm thinking about this and I look at the angle of the teapot, let's see, I'm trying to get in here because this my notebook's kind of close. All right, the angle of the teapot spout, I'm going to compare it there, right? And then let's see if I go on my drawing over here, did I get the same, move my hand out of the way, did I get the same kind of angle? Ooh, no, I did not. If you look, I went straight up here and I should have went out. So now, thinking about that, I need to go back in, and let's see, this was at the angle like this. I need to kind of close it in here and go down, up. All right, and then this would probably go in skinnier because I moved that. All right, so I've changed that. All right, so angles. Another angle that's very important here is the angle of the spoon. Now notice that there's an angle to it in terms of where it sits. Okay, and here, I'll start from there. You can see from the pot here over, this is the end of it. It's kind of long. And this is where you could use some of that comparison thing from the first one. And look here, see this lovely spoon part? If I measure it, I can measure 1, 2, and a piece. So there should be 2 and a piece compared to that. All right, so I got 1 here that I did. 1, 2, and a piece. Oh, I got that too long. Let's lop that off about, right here maybe? Oh, wait a minute. We didn't get that angle in there yet, though. Here's the angle. Now, this is actually a lovely diagonal going across here. But you'll notice there's a bend. So, first of all, let's get the same diagonal. Diagonal, diagonal here. It is the same. I did pretty good with that. However, we've got to note that this is going to arch here. So when it arches, that is going to change the position of where my piece is. Okay? Now, I'll also notice that this now is wider on this end. So I can go ahead and start doing that. And a narrow, wider, and then let's see, fix this a little bit here. This is only a tiny bit. All right, so now I can go in there and start erasing this mess that ain't correct. Forgive my verbiage. All right, so I'm starting to, and you see this kind of gets messy. This is why you should always draw lightly. Now for this video, I'm using a design pencil, and these actually draw kind of dark. But if I had used an H, which is a really light, or 2H or 4H light drawing pencil, you wouldn't be able to see it. So I needed to make it where you could be able to see it. But at the same time, I can go very dark with this as well. All right, so there's a couple of angles on that. We can also probably compare the angles on the handle of the cup as well, and comparing those things. You can also see too that this bottle is basically straight up and down, vertical to the saucer of the teacup. Okay, and that's another way of kind of using the angles. All right, so the third one is using horizontal and vertical comparisons, which I just kind of did. All right, so that's saying that when I go to draw this, I need to know that, first of all, let's try, let's look at the bottle here and the height of the teapot. All right, so I lay my pencil across here, and you can see where the height of the teapot comes on the bottle. Okay, hopefully I'm doing that right. And so it is right pretty much below the word Lipton. I know you can't see it well from my pencil, but that Lipton is probably about, it's a little more than a little less than halfway down, I think. So let's see, about halfway of my bottle, near about, not quite, yep. I'm guessing about here. I should have a line over, and this is where the top of my teapot should be. Something's not right. Let's compare something else. Let's compare the height of the teapot to the height of the teacup. All right, so if I go across the top of the teacup, there you can see that what I'm doing is you kind of like draw a line, dun, 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 dun. It comes to the base of the handle. So my teacup's handle is really evidently out of proportion, or this whole thing here needs to change. But let's see one more here. Vertical. All right. We know that this vertically is going to fall the... All right, I've got a vertical line here, and I'm showing with this vertical line that if you look at the bottom of the Lipton jar, which is right under my finger, through right behind the handle of the teacup, okay? If you look at my drawing, I didn't do so good. Now, it is behind the saucer, but I've got to adjust that. So I will need to come in here and probably shorten that up there. Let's see. Let's go vertical. Let's see how many tall of the teapots it is here. 1, 2, and a little piece. So if I got this, I should have 1. No, 2. It is definitely my teapot that is way off, I think. So I noticed that these lines, they needed to go because they're no good now. I'll go with that. Let's see, our width of this, the width, okay, so we did that. All right, I know that this needs to move down dramatically. Now, let's see, where does the teapot end at on that plate? Okay, so if you look there and draw a horizontal across, it is going to be about a third of the way down. So about a third of the way down. And on the teacup itself, when I draw this horizontal, it's about half maybe. So my teapot should be ending here. So I need to come back down here. And we knew that from the last decision I made. All right, I'm trying to lighten it up a little bit here. Okay, then now we got to change this. We had the right width, but we know that the top of this, which I didn't include my oval last time, this was actually a cylinder, not a rectangle. Hey, I make mistakes. So that's kind of more what we have there. All right, then now I can see this is obviously way out of proportion. And I should have something. This is going to go right up to that top of that. And then it is going to be level with that. So this is where that comes from. Here, that's more like it. Now I can erase this yuck that I got here that was a failed attempt. Yep, a failed attempt, y'all. Okay, so you can see that what I've done, I've really started using the horizontals, the verticals, the angles, all those different things to start kind of figuring in where these pieces are and that they're the right proportion. So now my skeleton is good. Okay, since my skeleton is now good, I can take and start with the contours. All right. Now, on this teacup, for example, I know that it's going to go in, and that is about 1/3 the way down. I'm guessing that's where that is, in here. So it's going to bubble in here, and then it's going to fluke. That's what you call it when it does that little kind of going in there. Down 1/3 of the way more. Oh, wait a minute. What happened at my... that was kind of rough. I was doing my curve the wrong way. So now I have more of this bump thing going on. Oh, you can't see it. And there it goes. All right. So you can see that starting to come in, and then you can see this edge that's down here. It's kind of got all sorts of blah blah, and I would go in and start perfecting that. So this is where I'm starting to now see where these things are. I don't need the edge of this shape that was in here for the spoon. I need to take and just go ahead and start curving it around. I got to notice that. Look how this is here. How much space is there? Oh gosh, this is where the last technique comes in. The last technique is dealing with the negative shapes. Okay? Negative shapes are not the objects themselves, but they're kind of the spaces between the objects. So if you look at this shape that's here, I need that shape right here for this spoon to be laying in the right direction. So I need to pay attention to it and form it in there to get a good actual piece. Now, if I want to get my spoon right, look at this. See this? It's kind of like a trapezoid. Look, it goes over. And then if I pay close attention to how this shape actually works in here, then I'm going to start to notice some things. All right. And you can see where that's going. And this is where this starts to bend and flute out here at the end. I've got to work on that, but you get the idea. You see what's happening. So I'm using all those tools. Here they are again for you. That I'm using comparison of objects. I'm measuring angles. I'm doing horizontal and vertical comparisons. And then I only use the negative shapes. Now, you can, if you really want the best possible drawing, try drawing nothing but the negative shapes. In other words, instead of looking at the bottle, you're going to be looking at the space around the bottle. Okay, the space in the side, the handle, the space of the table versus the space of the objects. And if you can draw those correctly, you will get a more realistic result.